Welcome in to the Illini Cast. Austin Berkland alongside Sonny Verma. We are here, and it is a Monday night, and we just celebrated an 87-84 win over the Nebraska Cornhuskers. It was an overtime battle. Nebraska trying to play spoiler like The Rock at WrestleMania, and they did not. Luckily, our story is still being told as the Illini fans, and at this Illini season, still have a chance for first place in the Big Ten Conference. Sonny, what are your initial thoughts of this Nebraska victory for the Illini?
Hard fought. Nebraska, obviously, their struggles on the road are well documented, but just the fact that we had such a poor game from Luke Goody, from Justin Harmon, in particular offensively, showed that we can still win games that, when let's be honest, a lot of us were kind of wondering, like, oh God, what's about to happen? Because we seem to be the only team that's not taking care of the home court advantage lately. So, it was a good game. Glad we took the W and on to Michigan State. There's no easy wins in the Big Ten.
I mean, it's crazy to think that in Columbus, the Illini shot 41.2% from beyond the 3-point line. And then you look at the Nebraska 3-point field goal percentage for the Illini, and it was just atrocious at 26.5%. So the Illini need a little bit more consistency from the 3-point line. I thought there was some moments where Brad Underwood wasn't the best coach on the day. I thought Fred Hoiberg had a really, really
Bad
great
Underwood game.
performance as a coach, but yeah, Underwood will have some of those clunkers, and Illinois withstood this clunker, but the results don't always tell the full story. I tweeted about it. I said this wasn't the best Underwood game, and there were some fans that were like, "But we won," and it's like, listen, like I said last week, I'm an Eagles fan. I saw a bunch of wins. They were 10-1, but that doesn't tell the full showcase of a season or of a coaching staff. So you still got to have a little antenna in your head and be like, there's some issues here. There's some issues here, guys. So yes, the Illini did win, but I wanted to see a little bit better performance from the coaching staff in this one.
I mean, our sister podcast with Big Banter, the Java Men had a good tweet about it, saying that game, our frustrations aren't about beating Nebraska in the middle of February. It's about seeing whether or not Brad Underwood can adjust in game, in scenarios that when we see that the game plan isn't working. And again, for the most part, against Nebraska, he didn't do that. So until he kind of shows us that he's capable of making those adjustments, we're just going to continue to be nervous until March hits.
I mean, in a game where Justin Harmon played 18 minutes, 0 for 5, 3 assists, 2 rebounds, and only 4 points, I think you needed a little bit more out of Dre Gibbs Lahorn. I think that was the hot hand for the night, and that just didn't allow that to happen. Justin Harmon was passing the ball in bounds, made a couple crucial mistakes in there. Luckily, the Illini withstood those crucial mistakes, but man, there were some moments where it was like, maybe Justin Harmon doesn't have it on the bench this game. Maybe try giving it to Dre Gibbs Lahorn, who can at least play that tough defense and maybe drive in and get a good dribble drive shot going.
At the very least, let someone else throw it in. I mean, Harmon almost cost us 2 possessions. We got lucky. The basketball gods bounced the basketball his way that second time where he was able to get the ball. And, he redeems himself a little bit by making those 2 free throws. But, yeah, not a great game for Harmon. I don't know how many times we're going to see Luke Goody go 0 for 6, I think it was. I mean, they're wide open shots. This is why, Austin, I don't feel too bad about this game. I don't feel great. But we missed a lot of wide open shots that game. And, for the big pictures, we were up 10 with 3 minutes left. And almost every single time you're going to take that. Yeah. You see the graphics, which said we were like a 99% chance of winning at that point. And yeah, we fumbled the last 3 minutes. Don't get me wrong. But ultimately, we came home with the win. We didn't play that great. Domask played solid. Shannon played solid. Coleman had a good game. Coleman did Coleman things, which is all you can kind of ask for. And then, of course, in my opinion, the MVP of that game is my guy Ty Rogers. Some of the way he can extend plays, just get those offensive rebounds, give us second and third opportunities over and over again. Uh, I can already tell he's going to go down as one of my favorite Illini of all time.
He had 5 offensive rebounds, which is more than some teams get in a game. I mean, we talk about Luke Goody's shooting ability, 0 for 6, but yet he had 8 rebounds. He was still impacting the game in a somewhat positive way, even with 0 points off the bench. So the rebounding, the hard work was there. Some of the scoring was there. I mean, if you would have just told me that Quincy's going to have 12 points, Coleman's going to have 20 points, Domask 19, Terrence Shannon 18, I would have been like, oh, Illinois wins by like 10, right? But again, there were some schematic issues defensively that just didn't work. I mean, Tominaga had his way with the Illini, 31 points. That can't happen at home. I know guys get in extremely hot streaks like he did, 5 for 7 from the 3-point line, but my goodness, 31 points for a guard like that when you have Terrence Shannon Jr. guarding him and you have Ty Rogers guarding him and a little bit of Domask. I mean, the defense has to be better, and I don't think the adjustment was there by Brad Underwood in the second half or at all to slow him down. What slowed Tominaga down was just being tired at the end of the game.
Yeah, I just don't know if there was a strategy to slow him down. Shannon was up in his grill as much as I've seen him up in anyone's grill the last this entire season, essentially. Tominaga was just making crazy shots. Ty Rogers was hounding him, but Tominaga would just find a little breathing room, launch a shot, and they just happened to go in. It's just one of those, like Tominaga did his best Klay Thompson in his prime, of course, not this year, impression where I don't really know if you could have stopped that. I'm more worried about our offensive shots just not falling. I think that game could have been a little bit easier played. At the our end of the game, play calling was just awful. It got a little attention from John Beeline, the former Michigan coach. It was just Domask and Shannon just kind of taking turns trying to play hero ball, and it didn't seem like anything was really being run for either of them. And I hope that's kind of a learning experience. I hope Brad and his staff and the team are kind of, in that room now trying to figure out, okay, what do we need to do different moving forward, because Nebraska's a good team, but we're going to be in that situation again, and we need to be able to confidently protect a 10-point lead with 3 minutes left.
I know you don't want to take away Terrence Shannon Jr.'s aggressiveness, especially on the fast break, but there are some moments in the fast break where Terrence Shannon just is praying for a foul. Like there's no like strategy there of trying to score the basketball on the fast break. And I know that when a guy's that size that you can pretty much try to score anytime you want down at the paint, but I would like to see some stop and pops from him. I think he has that ability of shooting and the athleticism to do it, but there are some times where he just looks completely out of control and he's just praying that he's going to get bailed out by a foul call. And then on the 3-point side of things, like there were some open shots in there, but 3 for 10 is a bad look. And I think that's kind of when you got to realize as a player that, oh, offensively, this isn't my night shooting the basketball. I need to come up with some creative ways to score. Maybe I can try some booty ball a little bit, use my size in my point forward kind of role. Maybe I can find some mismatches here. So I don't think Illinois did a great job of exposing the mismatches this game like they have in previous encounters in the Big Ten.
So, let's talk about it. 1 to 5, 1 being not at all, 5 extremely. How concerned are you with our team in general? Like, I kind of wish, I know Shannon's dealing with a lot of stuff right now, but him coming back to the team hasn't gone quite as smoothly as I wish it had been. So before I give my thoughts, I'm just curious, is there any cause of concern for you right now?
You said out of 5, correct?
Yeah.
I will go with like a 2.1, where it's like the pieces are still there where Illinois can be very successful and reached the heights. Obviously, the AP voters agree, having them at number 10 in the country, and that's elite realm. Illinois is number 2 in the Big Ten right now. So I know the expectations are even higher nowadays for Atlanta fans, but as far as the concern level, I'm just not that concerned. Um, it just feels like they're due for a clunker every now and then, but the fact that they still won out of a clunker showcases the talent that Illinois has over their Big Ten counterparts.
I think I'd go a little higher than you, 3, maybe even 3.5, only because not so much about the Big Ten. I think, I mean, everything I've watched Purdue lately, they just seem to be the cream of the Big Ten. So the likelihood of Illinois sweeping the rest of their games is not very high. So I don't really think we're going to be contending for the Big Ten Conference Championship. For me, the concern is coming March, because as I talked about it, the reason I was so excited about Shannon coming back was I felt like Damask is not the best player on a Final Four team, but Shannon returning, I'm talking about Shannon pre all this drama, that was the best player on a Final Four national championship team. His form since he's gotten back is not the player that he was pre drama. And so now, I guess, again, I'm not going to say it's 4 or 5, but the thoughts are creeping into my head if this is just going to be kind of a season long thing where we see Shannon give flashes of what he is and what he's capable of doing. But, for example, against that Nebraska team, like, he was stripped constantly by Tamanaga when he would try to, as you said, force something. Is he going to be able to kind of return to form? I don't know. And if he's not, then all of a sudden I'm sweating a little bit more come March again.
I mean, here are the teams that are ahead of Illinois in the current AP poll. UConn at 20-2, they're just a different beast. They are the biggest complete team in the country right now. Purdue with Zach Edey and the way he's officiated, the offensive rebounding, guys like Foster Lawyer and Lance Jones getting those second chance 3-pointers. That's nearly impossible to contend with. North Carolina, they upended Duke. Kansas just beat Houston. We've seen Tennessee firsthand, and Dalton Connect is basically what you want Terrence Shannon to be night in and night out. It's just that elite scorer. They beat Kentucky. Marquette, Tyler Kolek, same thing. Just that great individual star with some great side pieces around them. Tennessee and Marquette are very similar teams, in my opinion. Then you have Arizona. Then you have Duke. Then you have Illinois. And then they are just above Wisconsin. I definitely think they're a better team than Wisconsin. But you need Terrence Shannon to be Terrence Shannon to beat these top 10 teams that you're going to encounter, maybe in the second round, maybe in the Sweet 16, or more than likely in the Sweet 16. And it just is hard. Like, you got to have guys like LJ Cryer for Houston, what he can do on a game to game basis. And then in Kansas, Kevin McCullough Jr. is just an incredible star for the Jayhawks. And they're going to win another conference title. It's just crazy, especially in that competitive Big 12. So, and then you look at Duke. I mean, when you have a guy like Filipowski, 17 points per game, rebounding wise, he does a really good job as well. It's really tough to see Illinois kind of go above those teams right now because you need to see Terrence Shannon go back to the Terrence Shannon that he was prior to the suspension. And even then, you still lost to Marquette and you still lost to Tennessee.
You're exactly right. Like, what happened on Sunday can happen again, and it will happen again in March. The pressure is going to be high. There's going to be nerves on the court, and we're going to have to count on Brad to make some adjustments, which I don't have that much confidence in whether he's going to make or not. So it might just come down to the 5 guys we have on the floor. And when that game is close at the end of the game, yes, Domask has done such a great job being a closer for the most part. But now I think the sleepers, they brought it up earlier today. Is Domask supposed to be the closer? Are we going to have to kind of shift our thinking and just kind of plan that maybe the pre-drama Shannon is not going to be there the rest of this season. So kind of focus on Damask. He's won us games earlier in the year. He's obviously a high quality player. And maybe that's just kind of the role we have to go moving forward. He missed a shot against at the end of regulation against Northwestern, but I think it was a good shot. He had the smaller boo buoy on him. The shot didn't go in, and he actually had Shannon open to his left on that particular play. But whatever game plan there was on against Nebraska, where it's just, all right, Terrence, your turn. All right, Marcus, your turn. That obviously isn't it. They got to plan better than that.
I mean, you look at the coach to coach comparisons of these top 10 teams. Do you like Brad Underwood more than Hurley at UConn?
Game, like a game manager, like a game, like adjustments
game,
in game.
Yeah, in game adjustments. Do you like Hurley or Underwood?
I mean, there's not a lot of guys I like less than or more than. How am I going to phrase this right? There's not a lot of the guys that I'm like Underwood than when it comes to in-game adjustments. I'm very insecure with his skills in that area, so I'm definitely going Hurley.
Painter or Underwood?
Definitely Painter.
Hubert Davis or Brad Underwood?
I can't say I've watched much of Davis, so I'm going to abstain.
Bill Self or Brad Underwood?
Definitely Bill Self.
Kelvin Sampson or Brad Underwood?
Sampson.
Yep, we've seen that in person.
Yeah.
Rick Barnes or Brad Underwood?
In March, who knows? Rick Barnes is, you're talking about two guys who, kind of have that dark cloud over their shoulders once that calendar hits March. So that would be fun to watch if those teams linked up again for the second time this season. Not that I want it. Tennessee beat us once already. But, I think, those are very much on like equal levels.
Shaka Smart or Brad Underwood?
See, Shaka at Marquette. And where was he at? VCU?
Yeah.
Before, that was a good coach. I don't know what was going on at Texas where he wasn't able to duplicate that success. So I'll lean Shaka when it comes to in-game, I guess.
Tommy Lloyd or Brad Underwood?
See, Lloyd, Arizona's got a lot of good dogs on that team too. So, it's not, I don't watch much Arizona games, so I can't really comment on that one.
John Shire or Brad Underwood?
I think Shire still doesn't qualify yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to put him over Underwood right now.
So, that's the top 10, and Brad Underwood seems to be at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of game-to-game coaching of those top 10 coaches, and that is a little concerning to me. I'd love to say, oh my God, Brad Underwood versus Kelvin Sampson. Give me Brad Underwood. There's just not a lot of guys like that. So Brad Underwood's going to have to prove it this March to move up those confidence meters whenever you do these kind of exercises. It's just really hard to convince yourself that with Terrence Shannon taking a backseat, Marcus Domask having to step up a notch in March where he's never had experience, and then Brad Underwood, who hasn't led a team to the Sweet 16 where he could just be like, guys, I know the recipe. I know the success that we need to have to get to that Sweet 16 level. So that is very concerning in terms of March. But luckily, there is still time for them to develop a little bit more of that. And maybe games like this against Nebraska will hopefully teach them a lesson on how to hold leads and how to do the tiny things that can shut your opponent down before they even think about it. What was Brad Underwood thinking whenever Terrence Shannon made that clutch 3-pointer? And then he was like, oh, timeout. Why? Nebraska's on the ropes. Why do you want to give them time to reestablish something, to draw something up? Keep the pressure with them. Make Nebraska use that timeout. Why are you helping them out in that situation? That timeout changed the entire complexion of that late second half run?
Yeah, it's just tough because I love Brad. We're a pro Brad show here. I think he's a top 5 program builder when it comes to coaching. But I know you're talking about whether we can see him make those adjustments later on in the season, whether he learned anything from Nebraska. But we're at what, year 7 now? I believe year 7 of Brad Underwood. I just don't know if that's in the cards for him. It's just we take the great, which is him lifting our program from the bottom of the Big Ten, playing in the play-in games for the conference tournament, now to being having more wins than any team in the last 4 years. So that's the good. What's the bad is, unfortunately, is when we're matched up against teams at our level or higher, more often than not, he may not be able to make the adjustments, or he doesn't hire the staff can recruit. We know that, but I don't know if he's not listening to them, or if they are just not quite as skilled in the in-game stuff. And so it's kind of a you take the very, very good with, and again, I don't think Brad is bad at in-game coaching. I would give him like a B minus, C plus. It's not, he's just an average coach who can get by. That's my
I
opinion.
mean, it's to the point where you just hope in that pod one, where you're with a coach coaching with 3 other coaches that are very inexperienced. I mean, you look at what happened against Loyola when you had Kofi Coburn, when you had Io Sumu, and Porter Moser just completely exposed Brad Underwood. You had Eric Musselman do the same thing with Arkansas. You also had Kelvin Sampson expose Brad Underwood in the NCAA tournament. When is Brad going to expose another coach? I think that's the next crucial factor. We know we can do it against Juwan Howard, yes, but when can he do it against teams that are in his NCAA tournament pods?
I mean, if we have an early exit and it's because of us not making adjustments in March, man, those voices are gonna get loud. That yelling is gonna get loud, and it's I there's no way I think his seat even should be warm, but
Oh
there's
no.
gonna be a very, very vocal minority of Illinois fans who just don't like Brad, and this is just gonna give them so much ammunition.
I mean, I am a pro Brad Underwood guy. I know I've been saying a lot of negative things about Brad in this podcast, but generally I like Brad Underwood. But I think a game at Maryland is going to be a crucial thing, where you saw Kevin Willard and Maryland kind of have their way offensively with this Illinois defense. I'm excited to see how Brad has an adjustment from not only half to half, but from game to game. And I think that one's going to be a crucial one of seeing how well Brad Underwood has been able to do that. It's a completely different team, obviously, with Terrence Shannon added to the mix, but I still want to see how defensively Brad Underwood can adjust to what Maryland did, going to the hole time after time after time in that second half.
I mean, Maryland just has Brad's number as it is. That's going to be a tough game, but one that we definitely do have to get back. But I mean, you look at our schedule, Austin. What our best win is? What, FAU?
Yes,
I mean,
because
Northwestern by
Missouri
30. Northwestern
Missouri
by 30
has
is nice.
taken a completely nosedive. They've not won a single conference game this year, so um, that's been a huge surprise.
We won a close battle with Michigan State in Champaign. Indiana, obviously, we struggled with at home. Ohio State, we beat on the road, but Ohio State lost to Michigan, and Michigan's really bad. So Ohio State's not beating anybody really right now. I
Rutgers
really
is 3-7 in the conference, so those wins aren't necessarily the most impressive.
Right. So for me, it's just one of those. You see Purdue's resume, and you're like, wow, they've beaten anyone and everyone that they have to face. I really want to see Illinois beat a good team convincingly. Admittedly, I'm losing a little confidence right now because I want to see. I don't know. Michigan State, whether they're good or not, I'm not sure, but I want to go to East Lansing and want to win by double figures. I want to be a little bit more confident. If the game against Nebraska ended up, again, it was up 10 with 3 minutes left. If we won by 14, 15 points, I would have been a little more content, a little more happy. But that's not what happened. Nebraska obviously kind of ran out of energy in overtime, and Tominaga just got tired, thankfully. I'm at the point where I'm a little bit more concerned about what the future of this Illinois team is, because our schedule's not too bad, but that last week of the season when we play Wisconsin at Wisconsin, we have Purdue at home. I don't want to. I don't want to get blitzed by those two teams. We're kind of figuring out what Wisconsin is right now. They don't look that great, but their efficiency numbers are pretty solid, and they have a pretty good coach. So I just may not be giving them enough credit. Purdue obviously is going to be a tough game, whether it's at our place or their place. There's going to be a lot of tension in the air, both between the teams and the fans in particular. But I don't know. I wish in the last X amount of games that we had something a little bit more convincing to make me feel comfortable about where we're headed the rest of the season.
I mean, there's been battles like ever since the Rutgers game where Terrence Shannon Jr. came back. Northwestern, you've been down. You ended up losing that game. Indiana, you had to battle back where Indiana had like a 58% chance of winning in the second half. Ohio State, there were some issues of struggle there. Luckily, it was a double-digit game, so that's good. But then this Nebraska team, like, yes, they've improved, but they are still not to the level where you're like, Illinois should just destroy them at home. Like, so that was really concerning. So I want Bill Raftery, who is ever calling this game, Iron Eagle on CBS on Saturday. I want them to get so bored that they just start talking about, I don't know, the best pizza and champagne. I want them to be so bored with this game. And hopefully Terrence Shannon continues to grow with this new look Illini team. Hopefully Brown Underwood can adjust some things defensively and maybe get some things creatively going offensively. So this is a crucial test for Illinois' mental state right now, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we got the rest. Now we have 5 days to rest. I think Quincy's got to figure out what's going on with Quincy because he's not shooting it the way he was a couple weeks ago. Obviously, he'd fallen on his wrist, and I think there's something there that the staff and he just don't want to admit to. And so we had games every 2 or 3 days, it seemed like, for the last couple of weeks. So there was no time to kind of sit back, relax, ice it up, get better. Now, we had a little break between Ohio State and Nebraska, and now from Nebraska to Michigan State, again, we get a little break, but then it starts grinding again. So I'm hoping whatever's ailing Quincy, he's able to kind of recover from, because if Quincy's shooting like he was a couple weeks ago, and Damascus playing the way he is, and Shannon slowly gets back into the rhythm, and Coleman is making 3-pointers as a 5 and basically forcing the other 5 to come guard him out at 3-point land, that's a really good offensive team. And that's a team with that many weapons. You're talking about 4 or 5 guys who can score 20, who can lead the team in scoring any given night. And then all of a sudden, my confidence level gets a little bit higher, a little bit better come March. But, I think one of the reasons my confidence is wavering a little bit is I just don't know what is up with him. And they're not really being open with it. So, enjoy the rest, heal up, ice that wrist, get better. Quincy, we need you back on the floor.
Absolutely. He's one of the guys that stirs the drink for this Illini team. And I mean, you look at here, his recent games, 12 points, 5 points, 2 points, 15 points, and 15 points. So, but the statistics wise, it just doesn't paint a great story where the rebounding hasn't been where Quincy has typically been this hot stretch of the season. So I kind of want to see him develop that way as well. Just become that physical presence like he has been. So hopefully, if there is an injury, rest up. But if there's not an injury, then that's even more concerning with how he's been playing.
And I mean, he's hesitant to shoot that three. That corner 3-pointer was, a lock every single time in the beginning of the season. It wouldn't even hit rim. It would just be a straight swish. Now he doesn't even want to shoot it.
Right.
So we have a little comment from our boys from the Scarlet Shooter on podcast. They joined me for the Nebraska preview. They were at the game. I'm very jealous. I hope the State Farm Center and the Crush treated you guys very well. It was a great game. I know a lot of Nebraska fans. It's funny if you're on Twitter. A lot of Nebraska fans are complaining about the officiating, but then you also see the Illinois fans complaining about the officiating. And I mentioned it last night. I don't think there's a single Big Ten game now that both sides don't complain about officiating. I think the reality is that officiating in the college game right now is just really, really bad. And everyone thinks that it goes against them when in reality it's just the quality level of the guys in the zebra shirts is just not that good.
I know the NFL hasn't done this yet, but with the influx of cash to the Big Ten, I wish they would just make referees full-time jobs where you can study the game during the day, do your game, then learn from your game, watch that film and recap how you did with a boss. And I don't think that's done to the best of their ability, the Big Ten.
So I just learned something today, Austin, and you may not have known this either. I learned this last night recording the most recent episode of the Big Ten show with a Purdue guy. That show will be released tomorrow, so here's a little a preview into it. So college basketball doesn't work like college football does. College basketball doesn't have Big Ten referees. College basketball literally has referees who work in teams who coach or who referee like different games regardless of the conference. So it's not a Big Ten thing. It's just a nationwide thing.
Well, I mean, you can change the culture. Buy some refs from the pool.
Yeah,
And then they're Big Ten refs. Put a Big Ten patch on the side of their shirts. I think that's the way you have to go about it because you cannot constantly have this much money, especially with betting going on. You can't have this much criticalness to your product with the way the game is officiated, especially with these conferences. So hopefully when the SEC and Big Ten come together, then they're like, hey, let's buy some officials and we'll NFC, AFC, Eastern Conference, Western Conference it. Let's go for it. This is our league. We'll have our own officials, both in football and in basketball.
Our friend Brad P chiming in saying, I feel like TSJ isn't driving to the hoop like he was before the suspension. And I feel like he might be driving, but the confidence isn't there. He's kind of just hoping for the foul as opposed to planning on making the shot. Like he had a certain level of confidence before all this happened where he was going up to make an and one. Whereas now he seems to be thinking too much in the sense where he's like, all right, this is what I did. I'm supposed to put my head down, go to the rim, and somebody's going to follow me. And it's just not I mean, it is happening. He's still causing fouls on the other team, which is kind of why there's always a free throw discrepancy between our team and the opposing team for the most part. He's very good at getting fouls, but Brad, for the most part, I agree with you. I just think for him, it's a mental thing. I have no idea what he's dealing with off the court, and I just don't think he's there yet when he's on the court.
He only attempted 6 free throws against Nebraska, even with the way he was driving to the hole. So again, he's asking the refs to please say, bail me out, please. It's not happening. And he's just got to be a little bit more creative around the rim if he's going to drive in the fast break. And in the half-court game, drive to the hole then, Terrence. Shooting 3 for 10 from beyond the three-point line. That's not a winning basketball. I just don't think that. You gotta do it. You gotta drive to the hole in the half court.
There you go. I learned something for the second day in a row. Keith Price chimes in and says the refs don't work in teams. There's a different combination every game. Well, I see a problem with that then. I feel
Yeah,
like that could kind of have to do with some of the bad officiating out there. Uh, at least if you're working in teams, you kind of know, you trust the other guy that you're working with, to catch certain angles, to catch a certain play. If you don't know, if you don't trust the people that you're working with, well, all of a sudden it might be a little bit more chaotic. So thanks for bringing that to my attention, Keith. I had no idea. Obviously, I've learned over the last 48 hours I need to brush up on my officials knowledge, but that that's unfortunate for me. I think that
uh,
might be why some of these games are so awfully officiated.
so I am a ref for junior high and high school level, so not even at the same level as college, or even close to it. But I tend to want to work with the same people over and over again because I know the physicality that my group will allow. But the minute that I get a different set of refs, I'm a little bit more on edge because I don't want to be the guy that's calling all the ticky tack fouls if my group isn't a ticky tack foul group. If they used to know each other and I'm the one left behind, I mean, it is a weird situation working with a different crew. That's why I love working with my two guys, and it makes it so much easier to ref a game because you can have that constant consistency over and over and over again.
I mean, the whole system needs an overhaul. I think all the drama surrounding ED and Purdue has kind of, made the chatter louder and brought it to the attention of a lot of people, like the amount of fouls that they shoot compared to everybody else. But I think everyone's noticed the chatter about Purdue, and they've kind of been noticing it more, or at least maybe paying attention more to the refing in their own games. And, there's kind of, it's a confirmation bias type of thing where I really think the refereeing storyline this year has been as loud as it's ever been in college basketball.
I mean, did you know the discrepancy of fouls in that Northwestern Purdue game that took place? So it was 8 free throws for Northwestern, 46 for the Boilermakers. 46 free throws they attempted. Yes, I know they have Zach Edey. Yes, I know that Hack Edey is a problem for teams. But are you serious? Like, that's like saying Northwestern didn't drive to the hole at all, which I know Bo Bowie likes to do. So I don't really get that discrepancy right there. So there are things that need to change. I think that the leagues have to look themselves in the eyes and think that the system is broken, just like NIL, just like the transfer portal. I think referees need to be that third biggest thing that needs to change in terms of college sports, especially at the eh, hell, all sports, not even just the ones that make money. Women's basketball, swimming, I don't care. Get the best officials, get the best judges, and adjudicate your games properly.
I'm just thinking out loud here. This could be one of the things that I'm sure you caught the news. It was pretty much a Friday news dump about the Big Ten and the SEC forming an advisory group about the future landscape of college athletics. This could be one of those things where inevitably, if the Big Ten and SEC do decide to break off from the rest of the NCAA, they can use that cash, that all that money that they're making from their media deals to do exactly what you asked for, to find the highest quality of refs and make them exclusive to the Power Two and pay them handsomely so that they're focused strictly on refing the games and not being a lawyer or whatever they're doing during the day job.
Exactly. I mean, Ed Hockley, I love you. Why were you a lawyer when you were refing Super Bowls?
That's who I
Uh,
thought of when I
yes.
brought up lawyer.
And Gene Steratore, I mean, you were refing a NFL game on a Sunday, then you're doing Northwestern Illinois on a Tuesday for basketball. Come on. The focus has to be on being the best in your sport.
I mean, these guys are tired too. They're human as well. So if they're
Yep.
working constantly, and then I think I saw the average NBA referee runs something like 4.5 miles a night. I mean, that's exhausting. For the most part, referees aren't young guys in their early 20s, in pristine physical shape. It tends to be guys closer to my age. And again, you have your mental focus during the day doing something else. And then all of a sudden you have to be catching every little, have eagle eyes and seeing everything on the court. You almost feel bad for them until they screw up one of your team's calls. But yeah, I mean, they got to do something because you almost feel bad for them. They're put in a position where they may not even be able to succeed. So let's fix the system.
Well, Sonny, we have another game coming up on Saturday. It will be on CBS, so you can watch the game for free over and on Atana this Saturday. So no subscriptions or even cable needed to watch this game. But we will face the Michigan State Spartans on Saturday. It should be a great one. Right, live from the Breslin Center in Michigan. So I am very excited about this game. Very excited to see what takes place, and we will preview it later on in the week. Sonny, it's been an amazing podcast. Thank you for joining me. I think we covered a lot of topics that we really didn't anticipate, but very crucial for where Illinois wants to get and how Illinois is going to get there.
I will say, at the beginning of this recording, we were at 399 subscribers. Come on, one of you guys, just click that button. Let me rest easy tonight and get to that 400 level. But yeah, we're going to have
Absolutely.
Michigan State preview sometime this week. We're basically scheduling who we're going to do it with. So we'll have that. And then who knows, leave us some feedback. Leave it in the comments if you like us doing this live where you guys can, join the chat. If you want us to do another call-in, we're absolutely willing to do that. Let us know what you want the Illini cast to be. Austin and I may be co-hosts, but this is content is driven by you guys. So, chime in, let us know, and we'll see you later on this week.
Absolutely. Sonny, thank you. Thank you to the listeners for watching live or viewers, pardon me. Been in radio for too long. But share this whenever the recording stops, and then you can share it on social media. Like, follow, and subscribe both on Twitter and on YouTube. And we'll keep feeding the beast, feeding the content to you guys. This is the Illini Cast. Thank you once again.